Hello everyone, welcome back to another Friday, another casual champion review, another champion I don't want to play on a streak of them, but that's okay because next week I get to play Kayle and more importantly Rost, but it's today I have to play Kayle, the vegetable, and this is a character that I have a lot of history with because Kayle was in fact one of the first champions I ever played. I still remember back when I first started playing League and I wasn't aware of what champion rotation was, and I originally didn't have access to anyone, so I just played whoever was free, and I played Blitzcrank for about a week. And Blitzcrank went away, and I was like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? And so I ended up playing Kayle for a bit. That was a time. You know what else is a time, though? What? Fan art section. Look at it. Kayle's. Lots of Kayles. I like people incorporating the memes that she is the evil sister. I have had many people in comments say she is not. Of course, take whatever I say as subjectivity. I do not think that you should take anything of what I say as objective, but from my point of view, she's the evil one. Thank you for the fan art section, though. I gotta go leave my jungler. Thank you for the fan art section, though, fellas. It's awesome, amazing, wonderful. I am very excited to see what you guys do for Ross next week. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to commentate while laning phase, which is kind of good because I'm hoping this game goes on a bit longer to show you the true power of Kayle and why I really don't like this version of Kayle specifically, and it has a lot of similarities to Casson, but I'm not going to be able to commentate well because you can see who my matchup is. This guy has like 600,000 mastery points on Tryndamere. So, yep, and so it begins. So Kayle's origin starts at the peak of the Rune Wars with her mother and her father. Mahira, the mother, and Killiam, or Killam? Is it Killiam or Killam? Killam. Having a name like that's foreshadowing, I guess. But they climbed Mount Targon in hopes of finding some kind of magical power to aid in their tribe's survival. Thing is, Mahira was pregnant the whole time with twins, with Kayle and Morgana, and shockingly, she was actually able to climb to the peak. I don't know how you manage that, like thousands of people have tried to do that, and she was pregnant, but you know, you go, I guess. And upon reaching the summit, she is imbued with celestial magic and becomes the vessel for the Targonian aspect of justice. But because Kayle and Morgana were both in the womb while she was imbued with this power, she actually ended up sharing that power with her children, becoming kind of a trifecta aspect of justice, though Mahira took most of the power. So when they were born, Killam took the girl. Is Killiam? I'm just gonna call him Killam because that's how it's spelled. Maybe it's Kalam, like calamity. That's also foreshadowing. But not wanting to risk the safety of his daughters, he decides to take them away to a far-off land, protected by a supposedly magic-absorbing powers. And we now know that this is like the early foundation of Demacia and the Petricite Force. You know, magic-absorbing stuff that helps repel mages and magic of all kinds. All the while, Mahira's off doing her own thing, fighting the good fight, becoming a soldier, the aspect of justice, fighting in the Rune Wars. And while Kayle and Morgana didn't really see their mother that much, Kayle adored the idea of her mother being the aspect of justice and wanted to be just like her. So she grew up adamant about laws and rules. Certainly were there to help defend and protect people, not realizing that maybe she was becoming slightly obsessed with it. And as Kayle and Morgana grew into teenagers, a sword fell from the sky, splitting in two in front of them, and Killam recognized this as Mahira's sword. And I think at the time he thought she was dead. I did. I thought she was dead. But it's later revealed that now she's alive. She's just kind of ascended to a further plane of existence in Targon Prime, or the Celestial Realm. And Kayle, seeing this, is eager. She's like, oh, hell yes, and picks up the sword. Morgana follows suit, though hesitantly. She's not as enthralled with these powers as Kayle is. Both of them sprouting wings and collectively becoming the new twin aspects of justice. But their immediate morals start to differ a bit, and you can see, even in their personality, but it was reflected early on as well, that Kayle, again, is all about enforcing rule and law, an eye for an eye type of justice, whereas Morgana is the more seeking redemption, compassionate side of justice. And because Kayle was enthralled in this absolutism of justice, she starts to drown herself in it. Well, Morgana tried to keep things more on the subtle side, and even though Kayle was adamant about her way of preserving justice, she still allowed Morgana to be like, okay, you know, if they admit their guilt, then, you know, fine, show them compassion. And they became twin symbols of Demacia, and you can see that's why Demacia has a lot of symbology of wings and gold armor and stuff, because they took a lot after Kayle in the early years. But that one thing, that one slip-up of agreeing with Morgana sometimes did not gave confidence to her followers and her disciple. Was it disciple or protege, I guess? Ronus? I think was his name or her name. Did they appear in anything else? I don't even remember. But they decided that Morgana needs to be imprisoned, that Kayle's way of justice is absolute. And doing so, trying to imprison Kayle, they cause a riot in Demacia. People get hurt, people die. Ronas, in fact, dies in the own riot he tried to incite. And Kayle, upon seeing this, is infuriated. Oh! Ping difference. Kayle is infuriated, decides, I can't stand these mortals no longer. I'm gonna burn this city to the ground, cleanse it of its sin, and be reborn anew. But she's not the evil sister. And Morgana, seeing this, decides, oh, hold up. Maybe don't do that, Kayle, and flies up to stop her with her half of the sword in hand. Lee Sin! Help me! Use those new animations of yours and help me, please! Oh god, wait, he's got this, though. He don't got this. That's what he gets for using the Zenith Games skin. But as Morgana and Kayle fight, she hears a cry down below, and it's her father. He too is injured from the fire blazing through the city, and they go down to see him. Morgana holds him in her arms. He dies as a result. It could be the riot, but I like to think, and it makes more sense for her story, that he died as a result of the fire that Kayle caused. And I believe that works better for her story because upon seeing this, she takes a vow that human emotion should dictate her no longer. Like, she let her anger get the best of her. So when Morgana drops her sword, Kayle picks it up, claiming both halves of the aspect of justice for herself and flying away from Demacia. This Tryndamere keeps emoting me, but little does he know, I'm Kayle. Use your Zenith Games powers, Lisa. Well, okay, that was the most unimpressive way to do that, but I guess he got the job done. So Kayle flies off to Mount Targon, seeking her mother in Targon Prime to basically train to become the true aspect of justice. So class, what have we learned today? Kayle is a aspect of great power, though probably not as powerful as the other aspects because her power is shared with Morgana and partially her mother, but she is obsessed with rules and law and order, renouncing her humanity to become the true celestial aspect of justice. And this is where I think her new design is... I don't like using such aggressive words these days because I don't like... I've been more on the side recently where I don't like stoking negativity in a way that's not constructive criticism, but I think new Kayle's design is kind of terrible. To me, it's a character that's supposed to be evolving in the same way as Kha'Zix, right? She's becoming more powerful as the game progresses, becoming the true aspect of justice she wants to be, like her mother. And so logically, you would think that because she's trying to remove herself from her humanity, that as she evolves, she would become less and less human. And yet, in a baffling choice, for some reason, when she evolves to her level 11, which I'm almost there actually, she becomes more visibly human. Mask off. I do like the wings. I like the fact that she grows more and more wings as she evolves, becomes more angelic, like a seraph or seraphim, whatever you call it. That's really cool. But it's like, why does she take her helmet off? If her whole point is to try and appear less human, to remove herself from humanity, why would she remove pieces of armor? And the common criticism for that is like, well, she's too powerful. She doesn't need armor. What the... Tryndamere, where are you going? Tryndamere... Oh my god, wait, he's a genius. And sure, that could be a valid point of criticism that's like, well, you know, she's too powerful to need armor, so she's taking it off. Sure. However, the whole point of the armor is not necessarily because she needs it defensively, it's because she's trying to appear less human. There's a reason when you're trying to conceal your identity or trying to make a mysterious character or an ancient being, often the time, they have something that obscures their face. Because if you can't see their face, and importantly, their eyes, it removes that association with humanity. It's in everything. Humans try to look for faces in anything. It's like you put two dots in a line, that's a face. So by removing her face from the equation, it creates that alienation, that inhumanity. And so if she's trying to ascend, become less human and more like a ping difference, because if she removes her helmet, you see, oh, she's evolving, she's becoming transcendent, she's becoming more than human, and then she takes off her helmet and like, oh, yeah, that's a human. So I would have thought as she evolves, she puts on more armor, becomes less distinguishable as a human being. But of course, if you want the option of her removing armor as she evolves, I think that's an option because her whole goal is to become more like her mother, right? And while we have artwork of her mother in her human form, I'll put that up on screen so you can see it, but then the surprise for those who haven't seen it, I'll put up as well the true form of Mahira, and that's what Kayle's aspiring to be. And so if you really don't want to go the option of her becoming bulkier and more armored up as she evolves, you want to say, well, she has no need for it anymore. Sure, you could also take the route of making her look more like one of those biblically accurate angels, make her look like one of the seraphims, even more so, or, oh shoot, what are they called? The Ophanims? The ones with the big wheels with the eyes. It's all as far as I recall, granted my knowledge of biblically accurate angels and the hierarchy of such is not the best, but from what I recall, seraphims and Ophanims and these other kind of angels are some of the highest ranking. So it's no wonder Mahira looks like this crazy mess of eyes and hands and wings, because that's more along the line of what they're represented as in Bible. And I think you could do that with Kayle, that as she ascends, she becomes more powerful, she takes on more of those angelic features. She's already got started with the wings, but you could have her grow the multiple eyes, the wheels spinning around, her arms turn into more wings, the swords just float around her. There's plenty of opportunity to make her look like this crazy angelic being, far beyond anything even remotely human anymore. But of course, that's not what they went with, and what they went with was, basic Mobile Legends Bang Bang design number 3000. I remember when they first came out, there was a whole meme of just superimposing Kayle and Morgana splash art over top of logos for other low-budget MOBA games. Also, I feel like I'm crazy. Admittedly, it's probably because of Rule of Cool, because it's like, well, two swords, but thematically, wouldn't it make more sense if as she ascends, the sword gets fused back into one? Because initially it was just one sword that got split in two so Kayle and Morgana could use it. But then with Kayle in her base form, she uses the unified sword. Like, wouldn't the sword fusing back together be better symbology for her becoming the true aspect of justice? Like, regaining that title her mother once held? I am 0-6. I promise you this is not worth it. You could be spending your time so much better. Okay, I'm putting $5 on it right now. This Tryndamere is going to have spent all his resources killing me on repeat. I'm going to hit level 16 anyway, and I'm going to win the game. It's ironic as well. I'm probably going to title this video something like, old Kayle was better, or Kayle was better before the rework, something like that, because weirdly enough, while I wasn't super fond of old Kayle, it had the, the whole Samus Aran thing of like, is it man or woman? Oh, it was woman all along. Whoa! Ironically, that design made more sense for her character. The fully armored up, almost androgynous angel coming down from the heavens. It sells the idea of what Kayle's supposed to be far better than I think the current iteration does. Stupendous performance, Tryndamere. Absolutely, I'm sure killing me for the 8th time was worth it, and you aren't just funneling. Oh, Twitch too. Awesome. Thank you, enemy team. You are doing marvelous today. And come to think of it, are there many androgynous characters in League? There's not many characters besides pure monsters that are fully androgynous. And I think making Kayle, removing her humanity, and that by that metric, removing her sexuality, removing her gender, I think would help sell that. And the old Kayle, and the idea that people couldn't tell what gender she was or what sex she was, whatever you want to call it, I think that worked a lot better. Because of course, I'm well past it now, but I mean, the fiery wings are cool. But the base level 1 wings for Kayle, they didn't look good in the old version either, with these scrawny little character with these big wings. But trying to make, obviously a squishy character, you can't give her a massive hitbox, but trying to make the wings look convincing, it looks fine in this form, but the level 1 wings, my god, it looks so clunky and stupid. But old Kayle was really tiny. I think he'll remember just how small the old version of Kayle was, just because they tried to be able to fit her wingspan in the game. Tryndamere, my old friend. Like, surely this isn't gonna be worth it, right? We're getting kills all around the board. I'm 0-9, but I guarantee you, I guarantee it, this man's about to get the Kayle experience. Which I guess now that we're far enough along, I should probably talk about her gameplay, because this is horrible. It's very similar to what I was talking about with Kassadin, where I think this is the worst kind of late game character design. I'm not going to parade and say like Senna or Smolder are perfect by any metric, because of course they're not. But at least with late game stacking champions like Smolder or Senna or Aurelion Sol or Vigar or whoever, they at least have to be proactive in some regard. They have to be able to CS properly in a specific way to ensure that they get stacks. And upon reaching late game, I've seen Smolders who reach the 30-minute, 35-minute mark and don't have their execute yet. They are very far behind. Just because you reach that certain stage of the game and a certain level doesn't mean you're rewarded for it. Kayle's the opposite. Kayle is like Cassin, where it's just once you reach a certain threshold of the game, which I am about to, I'm almost level 16, I just reach a natural power spike that I got by existing. And there we go. I am now powerful. It doesn't help that because of this design, because of having specific thresholds to your power level, depending on just existing through the game, it means that Kayle is designed to be purposefully weak for almost half of the entire game, more than half the entire game. It's been 30 minutes, and now I am a real champion after all this time. And I can't fathom how people enjoy that. I like champions like I said, with Senna or Smolder, or Smolder has breakpoints, but Nasus, Vigar, Aurelion Sol, where it feels like there's an incremental increase in power. It feels like you have some level of agency over the game, that you can have variance between levels. Rengar! See what I mean? They sent 3 for me, and I killed one. He wasn't even that fed, but like he had 6 kills. It was still a Rengar against a squishy character with no defensive items yet. And I won. I beat him. Why? Because I'm level 16 Kayle. That's why. I did nothing all game, fed out my ass, and there's no repercussions because I am Kayle. I am rewarded for playing like garbage because my champion was designed to be garbage for 30 minutes until I become a god. To me, it's exactly like Cassin, where it's just, I think that is the worst kind of late game carry kind of character philosophy of just like, yeah, just exist for the rest of the game and then you'll be powerful. And she wasn't even that good for a while. As a late game character, there are other champions that are better than her. Like a late game Vayne, to me, is significantly scarier than a late game Kayle. Look at that. I'm late game Kayle, baby. Also, that was the thing. They had to mini rework her a while ago because she couldn't auto attack while she ulted, which is the thing that the old Kayle can do, but they removed it for some reason. Like, why would you have a hyper carry, attack speed, auto-based character that gives herself invulnerability but completely stops autoing while she does it? It doesn't make any sense. They've changed it since then. It makes her feel a lot better. But to me personally, I cannot fathom how anyone could main this character. Really, I don't understand how anyone could play this character so much so that it's their favorite character. Really, I think it's just a really dumb and stupid idea, and I can't believe anyone that I know would do that. But this is good. You know, I was wondering how this game was going to go because I haven't played Kayle in a very long time, but this is perfect. If we win this game, that is the epitome of the Kayle experience and kind of proves my point in that I didn't really have to do anything. I just existed for the whole game, fed out my ass, and yet I'm still a vital member of the team because that's how this character works. I think we actually do win the game. See, I told you, Tryndamere, you wasted your time, my guy. You kept trying to kick me down when I was going to become a monster anyway. It doesn't matter. And then I see, look how useful I am. I just saved my Pantheon. That's not really lore. I think Pantheon would probably hate that. And we win the game. Well done, Tryndamere. I hope you had fun because I didn't. Thank you for coming by this week's Casual Champion, fellas. I'll see you next week for Kayn. More importantly, Rust. And until next time, take care, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one, okay? Goodbye.